everyone. Welcome to Recover Alaska's First Taste. I believe this is the third season. I'm so happy to be back as your host. My name is Justin from Justin's Alaska Eats. First Taste is a monthly series normalizing sober and sober curious lifestyles through candid conversations and taste testing mocktails handcrafted by bartenders who can make more than just a cocktail. November is Native American and Alaska Native Heritage Month, which is super, super great, being that we're all either from or in Alaska currently. In this first episode, we want to discuss the cultures and discuss the rich heritage that has shaped our past, influences the future, and continues to enrich both. We're also giving our drink of the month here at First Taste, which I'm super excited about. Let me introduce our guest panelist, Mr. Lance Johnson. Why don't you introduce yourself to the people?
I appreciate it, Justin. I'm happy to be here on First Taste. As Justin said, my name is Lance Johnson, and I am the Administrative Director for Behavioral Health Services at Norton Sound Health Corporation up here in beautiful Nome.
Glad to see that you're here with us. Thank you so much for joining us. Miss Tiffany Webb, how are you doing today?
My name is Tiffany Webb. I am, right now, my role is the Opioid Overdose Prevention Coordinator, and I'm from Dillingham, and I'm a Young tribal member, and I work for my tribal healthcare organization in Dillingham. But we serve a region that's large, sort of like Norton Sound. It's bigger than just Dillingham.
Yeah. Well, right on. We're so happy to have you here. And we have our bartender, Miss Emily Green from Willowa. How are you doing today, Emily?
I'm well. My name is Emily Green. I'm the operations manager here at Willowa Social. I'm also a sometimes weekend bartender. They let me keep my skills sharp on the weekends. I'm originally from Wasilla, Alaska, graduated from Wasilla High School, graduated from University of Alaska Anchorage down the street with a degree in U.S. history and a focus on Alaska Native history specifically. And I have been sober since April 28th, 2018. So I'm proud to be here, I'm happy to be here, and I'm excited to get started on these zero-proof, spirit-free cocktails.
Heck yeah, thank you so much for joining us and for making these delicious drinks, which hopefully I didn't screw up, but I guess we'll find out once we take those first couple of sips. Why don't you tell us about the drink that we're making for the month of November, Emily? What do we got going on?
Yeah, for the month of November, we're going to be making a pomegranate black tea fizz. And it's, the pomegranate, the black tea, we're using an orange spice black tea for this, a little bit of cinnamon. It's a nice fall cocktail, kind of gets you ready for the Thanksgiving season and the holiday season. And then we do have an egg white in that. So if you have any egg allergies or you're just not comfortable with doing raw egg or an egg white in your cocktail, you're welcome to leave it out. It's going to be a great cocktail anyway. And you'll get that, if you do use the egg white there, you'll get a nice little meringue on the top of it. And it's just a wonderful holiday drink and fall drink. And it's got all those elements of comfort and warmth. It kind of mixed up into one drink. I'm really excited to make it. I'm hoping that everybody else is as excited as I am about this one.
Yeah, I certainly am. I tell you what, I took a sip or two and I was like, you know what, this wasn't half bad, but I'm just gonna have to come to Willowa and have you make it for me, because I don't know if I really made this right. But we will see. Yeah, Emily, why don't you show us how it's made?
All right, and Justin, if you do come to Willowa to have this cocktail for me, make sure you come on a Friday night. Come before 9 o'clock, because anytime after that is going to be a madhouse, and I will not have the 5 minutes it's going to take to make this cocktail for you. All right, so the first thing that you're going to need is a shaker tin. If you don't have a shaker tin, that's fine. You can find anything that you can smash together with something else and give it a good shake. What we're going to start with is called a dry shake. So you take all of your wet ingredients. I know that that's kind of a misnomer for a dry shake, but you take all your wet ingredients. So here I have my black tea that I brewed earlier. I have 2.5 ounces of the pomegranate juice, a 1/2 ounce of fresh squeezed lime juice. Just a little side note, when you're squeezing your drinks, you can use a hand press. It looks like this contraption that was in my mother's kitchen my entire life. I had no idea what it was used for other than chasing us out when we were trying to stick our finger in the dinner while it was still cooking. But this is a hand press for juicing citrus fruits. I juiced everything ahead of time just to save time on that. So here's our lime juice, and then finally our simple syrup. So we're going to throw that in here. The star of the show is going to be the egg. So it's pretty easy to separate an egg white. You just crack the egg and sort of let the egg white fall out as you're passing the yolk back and forth. So take the yolk. You can save it. I don't know what you would save it for. Maybe cook it up, eat it, use it in your hollandaise sauce. I don't know, but I'm just gonna throw mine out. So that's tossed out. The reason that we call this a dry shake is because we're not going to add any ice to it just yet. And the reason that we do that is because that's how we get that meringue. You get the air in there, right? So as you're shaking this, you can hear it. It's going to stop splashing back and forth and you're going to start to get that foam. If you get a little bit of it kind of running down your thumb while you're doing that, don't worry about it. You can just wash your hands after. It's not a big deal. I shake mine for about 30 seconds. And if you look in there, you're probably not going to be able to see it, but you can see a nice little foam. Next thing you're going to do, add your ice. At the top of that, this is tin on tin. When you do glass on tin, that's called a Boston shaker. So I like to use tin on tin. I think I get a better feel. So I've shaken it for about 15 to 30 seconds. Should do you good. I've got a nice little foam on top of that. So now next I'm going to pour that into this cocktail glass. This is called a coupe. You could use a martini glass. You could really use a tumbler, a rocks glass, a Collins glass, or a highball. It doesn't really matter. Just something that you can see through so you can get that, so you can actually look at your creation, get that nice meringue on top there. Next, you strain it into your glass. So as that sets up, you'll be able to see that nice, just gorgeous layer of foam on the top of that. That's a great meringue. So the next thing I'm gonna do is garnish it with a cinnamon stick. These won't come out. And then I also like to take just a pinch of ground cinnamon. I throw that on the top. And as you can see, we've got a lovely fall cocktail. So bottoms up, everybody. It's terrible. I'm just kidding, it's delicious.
That is yummy.
And like I said, you can do this with, you don't have to use, these specific juices. If you don't like pomegranate, if you have any kind of allergy, it's fine. Just as long as you have your elements of a sweetness, simple syrup, something like that. And your acid, and then something bitter. I like the bitterness that comes from pomegranate or blood orange or even cranberry juice. But as long as you have your acid, your sugar, and your bitter, you're gonna be good to go. Yeah.
Pomegranate is one of my favorite flavors, like ever. I feel like I could drink pom juice just like straight for a month and I'll be fine. It's absolutely delicious. I don't think I added enough pom in here. I think I added too little. Did my calculations wrong because this is very, very light.
Okay.
It tastes great though. I think next time I make it, I'm going to add a little bit more though.
Yeah, and it's really, the sort of the beauty of these things is that what I tell people is that you should always drink what you like. You don't drink, if you're not a beer drinker and you're not, or if you're at my bar and you're not a beer drinker and your friends try to pressure you into buying a beer, I'm going to step in and be like, hey, what do you like? What do you want to have? What do you like? If you're not, and for me, like I'm not a beer drinker, so I don't like non-alcoholic beer.
Right.
So
right.
This is the perfect thing, for me.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, that's delicious. Oh my gosh. And you know what this sets up? Drink and food. Being a food reviewer, I've discovered this. People tend to talk more when they're drinking more or when they're eating more. Um, so now I'm relaxed and I'm great. My kids at school. I feel like I'm on vacation right now, just hanging out with you guys. And being that, we're talking about a very important topic here, Native American history and culture, Alaskan Native history and culture. Um, I kind of want to dive into this conversation. Like, what is something, and anyone can chime in. What is something that you guys wish you knew more about when it comes to Native American history or Alaska Native history? Um, one trend that I've noticed, I had the honor of leading a digital panel for the Anchorage Museum about Filipino history, and specifically in Alaska. And one trend that I noticed among marginalized communities is that, and in racial minorities here in America, is that our histories aren't really taught to us um, until much, 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 much later. I feel like that's an interesting trend. And so not only do the people in those communities not know a lot about their history, but the people who aren't a part of that community definitely don't know about them either. So what is something that you wish you did know in regards to their history and their culture?
Justin, I appreciate the question. I do want to say, Emily, lovely drink. I can't believe I got it half right. Fantastic. Uh, This is probably the only one, but one thing I feel blessed having the opportunity. I've been in Nome for 16 years now, going on 17 actually, and so this is home. But I feel blessed because every day I have the opportunity to learn more about the culture through my colleagues, through the work we do here, through our wonderful museum that we have here in Nome. And as I was reflecting on Alaska Native Heritage Month, I was thinking, we have a lot of veterans, Alaska Native veterans in our region, and I don't know enough about Alaska Native veterans during our military operations, whether in peaceful times or in war times. And so I started really looking into that, and just touching the tip of the iceberg. I come from right outside of DC, and so I get back there every now and then. And so when I get back to DC, one thing I want to do is go to the National Museum of the American Indian, where there is a Alaska Native Veterans memorial. And so I'm just really glad to be on this journey to learn more about that.
I'm Alaskan Native. I'm Yupik and Aleut,
Hmm.
and Norwegian. And I found out I was Indian. It's very what growing up, what my grandma was told we were was Kentucky Mountain Redneck Indian, which is not a thing. But it was like shame that we were Indian. I think there's two words I'd like to. I couldn't define them right now. It takes a little bit of time, but there's two words that I think that everybody should know at the end of November, and that's their terms, I guess: historical trauma and internalized oppression, which goes with lateral oppression. And I wish growing up that I had known what that meant and what that was, because when you grow up with historical trauma that you inherit, what it means is it's bad things that have happened throughout history. And racialized trauma is a different kind of trauma because it happens to an entire group of people at once. It's targeted. It's not just bad things that are happening in a family and being passed down. It's targeting a group of people, and that really colored how I grew up. And there are a lot of things I thought was just part of my family culture that were trauma responses, and I only learned that as an adult. And so there are people that I had, there were a lot of struggles that I had that I wouldn't have had if I could have understood that had nothing to do with who we are as a people. That was what had happened to us. And I'll just share a quick example. My great grandma only spoke Yupik, and she went to an orphanage after her mother passed away, and they beat her for speaking Yupik. And so she, in that one generation, it was no longer passed down. So we learned like words, and my grandma could understand, but she would never speak it, and she was just ashamed, and afraid. So I think that that's something that I wish I had known more about growing up, and I wish other people knew, because I think sometimes people make a lot of assumptions about us and our communities. But to speak to the veterans really quickly, um, there are more like for okay, so how does this go? So for our numbers as we exist today, we represent like for our own communities, we represent like a really high number of people that are enlisted. And I think part of that is we it's in our it's in our DNA to fight for our territories, right? So like um we'll fight for like ourselves, our people. And there's a lot of Alaska Native veterans, and there's a lot of Native American veterans, and there's a lot of people enlisted right now, like a large number. And I think it's interesting. It's interesting because of what has happened with the government, and how things have played out through history, that so many of us as Native people have fought really hard for this whole country. And then, in some of the ways how we're treated is, it's ironic. It's really interesting to me. So, and I love this drink. This drink is really good. It was like, I thought for sure I'd done it wrong, and it tastes really good.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, nah, this is nah, but it's great. It's
It
fantastic.
tastes good.
It's
As long as
fantastic.
good. I mean, as long as it tastes good, it doesn't matter if you made it wrong or right. There's not really a specific way for a drink to come out. I mean, it's the I guess the point is just to have a nice time and to drink what you like. And to speak to your question, Justin, about what do I wish that I knew more about. I think that as we see what's going on in Canada with the residential school, really the tragedies that happened there, and really an entire generation of young First Nations people that were lost. I think that that's really important for us to look back at and say, you know what, like we can look at it and say, for shame from Alaska, but we don't have the best history, the best track record on the residential schools here either. And I think that as more of the tragedies over, with our neighbors to the east come to light, I think that we're going to see more of that, more of kind of the ripple of that come over here to Alaska. And I think that there are people, an entire generation of people who should see some justice for being removed from their families and being forced into a westernized sort of culture that was completely unnecessary. So I'm hoping to see more about that come to light soon.
Yeah, and I hope that too. It's nice to see progression every once in a while, whether you're watching the actual news or just scrolling through Facebook, being able to differentiate real news from opinion is really great. We're littered with falsehoods about real American history, and that can be extremely discouraging. And so that is one thing that I hope for too, Emily, is just that we see, justice. Nobody deserves anything less than that, especially when they have a history that, with the word that you used, is filled with tragedy, right? So it's important that we talk about these things that we observe these days to get to know what actually happened, real history, right? And hopefully change the history textbooks for the future for our kids. Man, but as far as this drink goes, holy cow, Lance, 1 out of 5. What do you think?
Oh, I'm giving this thing a 5. I got a palate like a 4-year-old, which means it's not well developed, and I don't like vegetables and fruits. This is good.
Yeah, my daughter's 6. I still can't eat her I can't get her to eat broccoli.
And why would you?
In reality, yeah. Why? What's the point? Tiffany, what do you think?
I'd give it a 5. I think that I love pomegranate juice. These are all flavors that I really like.
Yeah.
And the orange tea actually reminds me of when I was a little girl. We always had, we mixed black tea, the black tea or the orange flavored black tea with Tang. That's like a very Aleut thing. And I always really liked that. My grandma didn't make it a whole lot, but I would have it at friends' houses. And so it makes me think of when I was little. It reminds me of that quite a bit.
That's rad. And that's what good food and good drink does. It brings us back to our childhood. So this was great. Emily, what would you give this? I mean, you made it, but as far as
Well, I'm
how
gonna
you made it, yeah, what do you think?
a 4.5 because I forgot to add my garnish.
Oh my gosh, unbelievable.
We eat and drink with our eyes first, and I got so excited about jumping in and consuming the cocktail that I made that I didn't add my garnish, and I'm deeply embarrassed by that. But this is a great cocktail. I've had it before. I like it, and I from a cocktail standpoint, right? So I'm going to score up based on the elements. We have the bitterness, yes. We have the tea and the pomegranate. Do we have the sugar? Of course, we have the sugar. We put simple syrup in it. On top of that, we have the citrus, right, and that gives us our trifecta. So I'm also going to give myself a 5 because I'm a very good bartender. So
I trust you. I believe it, and I'm gonna have to be a secret customer at Willowa on a Friday, right? Before what time?
On a Friday, I would say before 9 o'clock.
Before 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
I got you.
Social hall and see me, and it won't be a secret because I'll see your face.
Oh, for sure.
You will have a mask on.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's becoming a part of who I am now, and I love it. Oh man, thank you everyone for joining me on this. Thank you everyone watching Recover Alaska's First Taste. If you like what you saw, like this video, share this video, put it everywhere on social media. Don't forget to visit Emily at Willowa so you can try out more zero proof cocktails just like this one. Join us next month, next episode. We're going to chat about current events and rate another zero proof drink. We'll see you soon. Take care.